This is our first garden update here on the Galley Podcast. I'm Second Chef John Patrick, your co-host. Just wanted to kind of walk you through what we're doing in the tomato garden. This is kind of a brand new bed that we put in here. There used to be a lot of cedar, and that got ripped out, and then it's kind of sat barren for a couple years. So I decided to transfer tomatoes up here because in their lower garden we've been getting a lot of blight, so they say to rotate the tomato crops. Now, all these ones have been grown, started from seed about April, and it took about 3 weeks for them to really get established. They really looked pretty bad when we first got them going, and I wasn't sure if they'd actually take to the soil here. We put some fertilizer spikes right next to each one, and I've been watering every other day, and they're starting to look pretty good right now. So you can see they're almost to the second ring on the tomato cages, and probably by mid-August this will look like a big tomato forest. So this is tomato garden number 1. Our second tomato garden looks like pretty much quite a few plants here. We did plant on this side 3 tomato plants that we started from seed. We had about 100% germination. It almost seems like we had more than 100% based on how many actual plants came up. But you can see there's a lot of volunteer plants on this hill because we did plant San Marzanos in this spot last year, and I ended up tilling the soil, and you can see that we have quite a few that actually came up from seed, and I'm wondering if it's better to actually have your ground already seeded, or if it makes sense to start indoors. But you can see that the ones on the left here are as big as the ones on the right, and those actually started later. They just kind of came up. The ones in this cage was actually a whole tomato that sprouted, and I ended up thinning it out a little bit. And there's a few here that have come up from seed that we're just going to let grow, and we'll probably be pruning those along the way. And that's something we're probably going to try next year, is just to really just seed the soil and let them come up on their own, because they almost look a little bit healthier than the ones that we started from seed. But those ones actually are looking a lot better now, because like I said, it takes about 3 weeks for those to really get going. But we're going to water those every other day. During really hot days, we're going to make sure the soil is pretty moist so that the root system doesn't dry out. But this is garden number 2. Right now we're next to Ella's potato garden. There's very lush foliage there. But we're actually doing a few different experiments with our tomatoes this year. You can see in here we planted this in basically compost. You buy compost in 40-pound bags, and we're basically growing tomatoes. We put 2 in each one. We have several of those growing, and those actually are performing the best so far. We'll see how that goes throughout the year, but we're just trying to make sure that the soil doesn't dry out. And some of the benefits of doing that is that the soil stays, or the water stays within the bag of the dirt, so you don't really have to worry about it drying out too quickly. But those are really doing well, and we have put some spikes in some, and others we've just kind of let the compost do its job. But that's our third method of doing our tomatoes this year. We actually have some in tomato containers that are also doing pretty good. So that is our garden update for the last weekend in June.